Hey, this is Mitch from Core Infusion High Intensity Television. Thanks for choosing the class, and if you're ready to get started, I'm ready to get started. Remember, this class is the property of Core Infusion Hit, copyright 4/24/2017. In today's class, we're going to be talking about what is manhood. Now, before we get started, as always, I want you to get a piece of paper, and I want you to write down some things for me. First thing I want you to do is write down how you're feeling today physically. And by that, I mean if your arm's hurting, your legs hurting, if you have a headache, write down how you feel physically. I want you to also write down how you feel mentally. I want you to write down how you feel emotionally. By mentally, I mean, do you have a lot of thoughts going on in your mind? Or is your mind quiet? Or is your mind tired from studying from homework? Emotionally, how do you feel? If you're afraid, if you're excited, if you're happy. And spiritually, how do you feel? And while you're thinking about it and while you're writing it down, the reason I want you to do this is because these four things are going to determine how well you're able to listen today. If you're not feeling your best physically, if you're experiencing pain, or if you're sleepy or tired, your ability to listen just isn't going to be the same. The same thing if you aren't feeling as good emotionally. So I want you to write these things down so as you're listening to the class, you can remind yourself, hey, because I'm a little tired, I need to sit up and pay a little more attention. And I also want you to keep in mind when dealing with other people, if they're going through these same experiences, it may be hard for them to listen to you as well. Remember, today we're talking about manhood. All right, once you have your list and once you've written down how you feel, if there's anything on your list that you see as an emergency, if emotionally you've written down, I feel like everything is lost, I feel like there is no help, I want you to immediately call 911. I want you to get someone who can talk to you. If you're mentally feeling exhausted, if you are mentally feeling that you're at the end of all the things that you can do to make yourself have a better day or a better life, I want you to stop this class and I want you to call 911. I want you to tell them that you were doing a self-evaluation and you've determined that you need some help and you're asking them for help. I also want you to make this a part of your everyday life. Every day I want you to write down or just think about how you're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And when you put it down on a piece of paper, it's going to keep you from reacting out of these feelings. It's going to remind you that, hey, wait a minute, I have a headache. So the things people say to me may seem a little extreme. So I need to slow down. You have to realize I'm not feeling that well mentally. So when I get into work, I may have to delegate some of my work to somebody else. Writing these things down, putting them in front of you, gives you the opportunity to not act out of them. Now remember, today's class is on manhood, and I want to talk about first, what does true manhood look like? Like, what is manhood?
What does it mean to be a man? By God's power, man was created. His promise to this earth was stated. You see, defined in the Bible, manhood is a functional reality, not demonstrated in partiality, but in a man's full fulfillment of responsibility. Manhood, a concept so washed up by fake cologne, dressed up to the nines, bragging about how the ladies are so fine. All this big talk with no backbone. You see, what we learn on TV only helps us to get STDs, and at the end of the day, all we ever feel is alone. What is real manhood? Let me first tell you what it's not. It's not pornography, it's not profanity, it's not sexual harassment, it's not verbal abuse, it's not stealing, it's not lying. Manhood is not engaging in sexual promiscuity, making promises you can't keep, running away from the problems you've created, leaving them all unsolved in a heap. You see, in the 21st century, what has replaced true manhood is a shame. But really, we as men are the only ones to blame. You see, we'll hold to what we want, not ever trying to be nonchalant. We become so selfish to the point where we'll find a woman, start this thing, and act childish to put on the ring. There's no commitment. We look to make love out of lust in the darkness where we walk, not realizing that we're walking down this road of destruction. Now, I know society teaches us that as men we can do our own thing, we can rely on our own strength, but the thing is, when we do that, we keep moving on so blindly. Now, saying this might be alarming, but no king was saved by the strength of his own army. What is real manhood? Real manhood is full subjugation to the will of God. Forget what society tells you. Let me just reiterate what the Bible tells you. The Bible says that real manhood is sacrifice and selfless love. It's loyal, courageous, tender, and trusting. You see, society teaches us that good boys are placed last, but let me just tell you, that's a stupid, sick joke from the past. And before you get on to me, let me tell you how it ought to be. You see, it was God, not man, who designed the blueprint for manhood. So just lay down your pride, and let's see how God exactly teaches us to treat the bride. To explain this, we have two men on opposite spectrums, both the works of God. Yet one fully denied himself, while the other lived for himself. One let the Spirit of God lead him, while the other let the flesh lead him. In Adam, we have a man taking no responsibility and blaming his wife Eve for the apple which he ate. In Adam, we have a man showing no act of courage, valor, or stability, and because of sin, falling short of his true ability. But in Jesus, we have a man laying down his life, his fear, and his emotions. In Jesus, we have a man making the well-being of others his primary devotion. Real masculinity is growing out of sinful distortions and finding its true nature in a form of love, not self-assertion. But you see, as men in a state of denial, we forget our God-given duty because we're too busy stuck playing that game, Call of Duty. What is real manhood? If you want to know what it means to be a real man, don't look to me. Read your word and live it out. But just remember, in the heart of every true man's real masculinity is Jesus.
Did you notice that manhood is really built around maintaining some type of principle or some type of base of operation that comes from not hurting other people and has something to do with adding to your environment? The guy's basically saying manhood is being like God, or manhood is being as close to God as I can be. Now, I took a little time and I looked it up, and here's what I found. One definition said manhood is the state or period of being a man rather than a child. Boys in the process of growing to manhood. I'm not sure what that means. The second definition says men. That makes sense. Manhood would be referring to men, especially those of a country, regarded collectively. So it's saying that manhood is a group of men together, like a football team is manhood, or the German male citizens together for a cause, or manhood. And then it puts us in a sentence. Germany had lost the best of her young manhood. Again, it's not giving us a definition of what manhood looked like. So that's why we're going to come up with our own. Here's what I would like for you to consider. Manhood is defined as having the skills, knowledge, and abilities to understand the world one lives in and to create positive, loving events within it. I'll read it again. Here's what I would like you to consider. Here's my definition of manhood. I believe manhood is defined as having the skills, knowledge, and abilities to understand the world that one lives in and to create positive, loving events within it. So in other words, in order to be a man, you got to understand what's going on around you. In order to be a man, you have to not only understand what's going on around you, you must have some type of skills or some type of knowledge so you can use what's going on around you to your advantage, so that you can be a positive part of it. Now, the energy of one's manhood should first be directed towards oneself first. In other words, once you realize that I got to understand my world, and once you realize I got to make my world better, first you need to take a look at who I am or who you are. You need to learn to understand yourself. You need to take a look at your limitations. You need to take a look at how you act emotionally. You need to take a look at how you appear physically. You need to take a look at yourself and say, wait a minute, I have decided to make a world a better place. And the best place to start making the world a better place is right here where I am with me. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Because, see, you're going to become a nucleus. You're going to become a nucleus for your environment, or if you will, for your own universe. So in order for you to, and a nucleus is the part of a cell that directs the operation of the cell. The nucleus is like the brain of a cell. It directs the chromosomes, it directs the cytoplasm, it directs the cell wall. The nucleus is the center of a cell. So you're going to become the nucleus in the center of your own cell. And your own cell is going to be your universe, your family, your community, and eventually your world. But in order to be a good nucleus, that's right, you got to assess and fix yourself first. So now, once you've learned to understand yourself, and once you now have started to improve yourself, then you can direct your energy towards the family. Then after that, you and your family can direct your energy towards the neighborhood. And after that, your neighborhood, through your efforts, can begin working on a world level to make a world a better place. So you understand now, manhood is defined as having the skills, knowledge, and abilities to understand the world that you live in and to create positive, loving events within it. And again, what's the first step of directing your manhood towards yourself? You got to know yourself. You got to love and accept yourself. And you got to seek self-improvement. One of the things you're going to have to do is learn to take criticism. Because I'm going to ask you to go out and ask other people what their opinion is of you. I'm going to ask you to go out and ask other people to tell you what is their opinion of you. And if you're going to grow, you're going to have to understand and how to take correction. There is nothing wrong with being corrected. You can't change what you're not aware of. A wise man loves correction while a fool resents it. And I'm sure if you sat down and decided to take this course, that is because you want to become a wise man. And again, a wise man loves correction while a fool resents it. So once again, as you start this path on becoming a man or inheriting manhood, I want you to start with the understanding of I have to be comfortable with being corrected. Now, remember earlier, I gave you my definition of manhood. And I told you that I felt manhood is defined as having the skills, knowledge, and abilities to one, understand the world that we live in, and to two, create positive, love producing events within this world that we live in. One more time, because I want you to remember this. I want you to remember it, and you're going to hear it over and over again. My definition of manhood is having the skills, knowledge, and abilities to one, understand the world that we live in, and to two, create positive, loving events within this world. Now, we also had a informal definition of manhood as well. And we said that manhood was being more like God. Now, during this class, I will talk from the viewpoint of many different religions. So I don't want this to turn into a talk about the name of God or which God is Mitch talking about. Which God am I talking about? I'm talking about the entity that you see as God. Whatever you see, if you say Allah, that's who I'm talking about. If you say Yahweh Elohim, that is who I'm talking about. If you say Jehovah, that is who I'm talking about. If you believe that God is a divine entity that cannot be named or termed or understood, that is who I'm talking about. So, one of the qualities of this God that we're talking about is aseity. And according to Christianity, aseity is one of the attributes of God. And it means to be totally independent. Now, think about that. For one, that's saying God is independent, meaning that he can make things happen, him or her can make things happen on its own, on her own, on his own. So that must also mean that manhood is striving to be independent, self reliant, and self motivated. Now, that is not to imply that we don't need other people. That is not it to imply that we aren't going to work with the help of other people. Once again, though, we have to be independent, self reliant, and self motivated. The two can happen at the same time. I can be a part of a team and be independent as well. I can go to practice on my own. I can learn new plays on my own. I can be independent. Now, can I win a team game as an independent player? Of course not. That's not what I'm talking about. Of course not. So I truly understand that life is a team event. But seeing that it is a team event, that in no way implies that as a man, you're not supposed to be independent, self reliant, and self motivated. So, what do I mean by independent? I mean, one, you can financially take care of yourself. For sure, that's independent. Two, you don't need the opinions of other people. You are independent. You may talk to other people for advice. You may talk to other people to change your mindset, but that is a totally different thing from needing other people, from needing other people's opinion. You're going to have to be independent, mentally, emotionally, financially, self reliant. What does that mean? That means that the things that you promise that you're going to do for yourself, that not only are you going to do them, but you're going to do them regardless of if there's punishment or reward. Self reliant. You don't need outside motivation, once again, to make you do what you said you were going to do. You don't need a threat of hell to do what's right. That's being self reliant. And you got to be self motivated. Now, what does that mean? Self motivated means that I have a drive within me that moves me to move forward to accomplish things regardless of the situation at hand. You know, it's very easy to be motivated to doing something when everything is falling into place. It's very easy to be motivated to do something when 100 people are behind you yelling. But self motivation is kind of contingent on faith, if you will. Self motivation is an internal drive that's telling you, regardless of a situation, regardless of what's going on, I'm going to do what has to be done. Again, that's called aseity. The next one is goodness. And goodness is having a mindset that is centered around loving yourself and other people. Goodness is also having a reputation of promoting peace, happiness, and well being. Now, let me ask you a question, especially about that last sentence. Is that the picture of manhood that has been given to you? I'll read it again. You can read it for yourself. It says, having a reputation of promoting peace, happiness, and well being. Now, first, I want to ask you again, is that the picture that has been drawn for you of what a man is supposed to do? Now, let me ask you a more specific question. Is that the picture that has been painted for you of what a African American man or a black man is supposed to do, be, say, or show to prove manhood? Now, let me ask you a question. Whatever you've been told manhood is, as you look out of your window, as you think about the things that you've seen, is it producing peace, happiness, and well being? Then that must not be manhood. Because earlier in the class, we agreed that manhood was being more like God. We also agreed that manhood was making peaceful events in one's world. So if what you've been shown out there, if it isn't producing these things and is producing the opposite of it, I would like you to consider that as being childhood. I would like you to consider that as being childish behavior. I would like you to take a few minutes and look at the way that you have been told that a man is supposed to act. And doesn't it sort of look like a bully on a playground? You're supposed to boss people around. You're supposed to not show emotions. You're supposed to not cry. You're supposed to not care. You're definitely not supposed to be happy. So think about it. What you've been told is manhood is actually childhood. From my point of view, anyway, it really looks like little children playing on the playground. But once again, in order to be a man, you got to show goodness. And what is goodness? Goodness is having a mindset that is centered around loving yourself and other people and having a reputation of promoting peace, happiness, and well being. Now, throughout the rest of this course, we're going to have another class on how to love yourself. We're going to have a class on how to carefully, without hurting yourself, love other people. And then once you finish this course, you will be able to promote peace, promote happiness, and promote well being. Let me ask you a question right now. What is your reputation right now? Would you say your reputation reflects a person who's moving on to manhood? Or would you say your reputation reflects a person who's being stagnant in childhood? Remember, part of being a man is also to know yourself and seek self improvement. Remember, we're talking about the qualities of God as well. Must be a master of himself. So that's saying that God must know himself. God must know his strength. God must know his ability. I mean, think about it. How could God have created the heavens, created the earth, created you and I, created the law of magnetism, the law of gravity, created the energy of electricity without knowing his own skills, strength, knowledge, and abilities? And by no means do I want to bring the creator of all that is to the position of a mere man with man-like qualities, but I have to draw a picture for you. And the only thing that I have to draw a picture on that we've all seen is things that we've all seen. So that's what I have to talk about. So once again, God had to know himself to decide I can create, I can do, I can make. The same with you. You have to become a master of yourself. What do I mean by that? I mean by not allowing your emotions to become the master of you. What do I mean by that? I mean not being motivated by anger. I mean, if you're too shy, not having to wait till you're totally upset before you speak the truth. Or if you're too emotional, you're getting upset and you're fighting because somebody, I don't know, let's say, called you out of your name. That's not manhood. That's not being a master of myself. That's allowing my emotions to master me. And when your emotions master you, let's go back a slide, you don't promote peace, happiness, or well being. So, again, you got to master yourself. And as we go through this course, we're going to teach you how to master yourself, how to be more like God, how to move into manhood. God also has veracity. That means habitual truthfulness. That means habitual truthfulness. And listen, if you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, this is too hard to do, listen, young man, I wouldn't be asking you to do it if I didn't do it. I am a habitually truthful person. How do I keep telling the truth? Because I don't do things I'm going to have to lie about. And it's that easy. I'm going to let that marinate for a minute. It is that easy. How is it possible to tell the truth all the time? Very simple. Don't do things you're going to have to lie about. Don't do things to hurt other people. Those are probably the two main things you lie about anyway. Very easy. But again, we're talking about manhood. And again, I'm thinking you're sitting there going, wow, I got to tell the truth. Yes, you do. But I want you to understand that once you display the characters of a man, and once you become more like God, you also receive the blessings of being a God-like man. Once you see the rewards of being truthful, it also becomes easy. Once you see the beautiful relationships that you produce, it becomes easy to become truthful. It's not a task. Yeah, it seems like a task to you now because you're kind of motivated to do some different things. And listen, I understand. I understand. I wouldn't be talking to you, young man, if I hadn't been where you are and who you are at one time. I would not be talking to you. Again, in order to be a man, in order to move into manhood, you got to be more like God. And we are now saying that God has veracity, habitual truthfulness. And what I'm telling to you is if you're going to be a man, you're going to have the habit of telling the truth. And how do you develop the habit of telling the truth? One, don't do things you're going to have to lie about. And two, commit to never hurting anybody. And it may sound like a chore now. It may sound like something that's boring, but I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, the blessings that you're going to receive by becoming a truthful person and being a God-like person will far exceed anything you can imagine in your mind at this time. How do I know? Because there are 12 universal laws that promote the person who practices habitual truthfulness. And we're going to talk about the universal laws later. I want to keep going on here. God also has providence. That means manifesting divine care or direction, prudent management of resources, and foresight. I mean, we already know that, right? People say God can see the future. That's foresight. People say God gives you what you deserve and God blesses those who do the right thing. Okay, that's called prudent management of resources. And God provides divine care. We got water, we got air, we get love, and divine direction. Yep, you got this class. You better believe it. So, as a man, that's the same thing you're going to have to do. You're going to have foresight. What does that mean? That means you're going to have the ability to sit down and go, not only do I understand my world today, as I put one and two together, I realize it doesn't equal three. But I can see that one plus two has a synergistic effect. And it equals a bunch of possibilities. But me as a man, I can see the possibility that's most likely to happen. Also, foresight means before I make a decision, I sit down and I walk it forward in the future in my mind to see where it's going to take me. That's foresight. Is that what you do? Before you react to something or before you commit to doing something, do you stop and go, okay, by Monday, this is what's going to happen. By Wednesday, this is going to happen. By Friday, what? This is a good decision. This is a good decision. How often do you do that? You should do that with every decision. You should do that with every reaction real quickly. Before I get angry and before I talk loud, what if I, then that's gonna, then I might have to, okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth closed and sit down and have a very happy day. Have a very happy event. You gotta have foresight. As you become older as a man and you're raising your children, you're going to also have to have foresight to provide direction for your children. I want you to make a promise to me right now as you're listening to this. I want you to make a promise that you will not direct your child the same way your parents directed you or with the same information that I'm giving you. Why is that? Because the information that I'm giving you and what your parents were teaching you was only relevant for that time and relevant for you. I need you to look at your children and imagine the future that they're going to be adults in and get them ready for that. That makes you a man. That's foresight. It doesn't make you a man to say, well, my mama taught me this and Mitch told me this, so you're going to do it. That doesn't make you a man at all. You're still kicking it in childhood. All right, manifesting divine care, giving direction, prudent management of resources. What I mean by prudent management of resources, real quick, what are your resources? Your one true resource, and you're hearing it from me first. This is my idea, my opinion. There is only one true resource, and that's time. And you're actually hearing it from a person who doesn't believe that time exists. But here's what I'm saying. The one true resource that you have is time. Money isn't a resource. Money is a manifestation of well spent time. People are a resource. Good people are the manifestation of well spent time. So if you worry about how you manage your time, automatically that includes how you manage your money. If you worry about how you manage your time, and what do I mean by prudent management of time? Well, one, you don't waste it. One, you don't waste it. Everything that you're doing, you should ask yourself, how is this bringing me peace, love, life, money, something? What is this doing for me? What is this doing for me? Prudent management of your one resource, and that's time. And later on in this course, we're going to go through a time management class. I want to keep moving on here. All right, manhood, you got to be mission oriented. What does that mean? That means you got to have something on your mind that you're trying to accomplish and you got to be trying to do it. Why is that? Because when you got a mission in mind, that's going to take up a lot of your time. That's going to take up a lot of your time. If you have a mission in mind, That's going to take up a lot of your choices. That's going to dictate a lot of your decisions. You got to have a mission. Let me ask you right now, what is your mission? I'll tell you what my mission is. My mission is to get everybody on earth as close to heaven as I can. And how am I doing that? By one, talking to you, by getting you closer to heaven. And I don't mean heaven somewhere out in outer space. I mean a heavenly or happy state of existence. So I want you to get a mission. What is your mission? What do you feel you are on earth to do? Later on in this course, we're going to go over a class that will help you identify your affinities and possibly help you identify what it is God has put you on earth to do. Impeccable. God is impeccable. That means faultless, flawless, irreproachable, and not liable to sin. As a man, same thing. You may think I'm making this up. I hope you don't. I just finished posting on Facebook, talking to one of my Facebook friends, and I told him, you know what? I can honestly look in the mirror and say, it's been a long time since I sinned. How did I get to that point? Because I wanted to be more like God. So how do I not sin? One, I have a mission. My mission does what? Dictates my behavior. What was my mission? To be more God-like. So how do I not sin? I commit to not hurting myself. I commit to not hurting anyone. And I commit to not hurting the universe. Now, I'm going to let that marinate for a minute. Man, you got to be impeccable. You have to be in a position where if you were put in front of people and they realize that they can't attack what you're saying, and they realize that what you're saying is the truth. So they say, I know what we'll have to do. We'll have to trap him. And they asked everybody in the audience if he has ever lied, done anything to you, please stand up. And it's in a forum where nobody would dare lie at this time. It's happened before. It's happened before. That exact story has happened before. And somebody had to say, you know what? I can't find nothing wrong with this dude right here. So if one person can do it, you can too. All right? On your way to manhood, you have to be impeccable. You have to become impeccable, faultless, flawless, irreproachable, not liable to sin. You got to become knowledgeable. Knowledgeable means you're acquainted with facts, truths, or principles, as from study or investigation. Anywhere in there did you hear me say knowledge is repeating back what somebody has told you or taught you? Let me read it again. Knowledgeable, acquaintance with facts, truths, or principles, as from study or investigation. Okay? And when I say facts and truths, I'm not talking about how many home runs somebody hit. I'm not talking about trivial, childish things. So remember, manhood talks about understanding the world. So I'm talking about facts about the world. I'm talking about truths about the world. You got to have knowledge. Also, you got to have wisdom, the ability to use the knowledge. All right, again, manhood. The energy of one manhood should be directed towards themselves first. Know yourself, seek self-improvement. Now, remember, I told you there's going to be an evaluation, and the evaluation is going to be on your character. I need you to go to my website. It's at www.coreinfusion.blogspot.com. I need you to click on the African American Male Mentoring Program. Then click where it says Forms and you see the form that says self-evaluation form. You can either write it down on a separate sheet of paper, you can print it out. If you look at the form, it's going to show on the form the people that I want you to take it to. Your clergyman, your teacher, your counselor at school, 2 of your friends, family members, and they're going to rate you in certain areas. 2 reasons. 2 reasons, 2 reasons, 2 reasons. 1 reason, because part of becoming a man is, right, knowing yourself. And in order to know yourself, you got to hear what other people got to say about you. You're just going to have to. The second reason, because I want to prove to the world that what you're learning is making you a better person. So I need that piece of paper. Remember, we talked about facts. We talked about truth. See, not only are you taking a course that's going to teach you to be a better man, but you are also helping me and bring a bigger piece of information to the world. I want to show them that if everybody is taught, or if everybody, I don't want to say talk, if everybody has the opportunity to hear the information that I'm sharing with you, that it can make them a better person. And the only way I can do that is, for 1, you do the self-evaluation. And for 2, become a better person. Become a better person. And I want to say this now before we go any further. If you don't become a better person, it is not because Mitch did not give you the tools. And the only other person involved in our relationship is you. It's just me and you. You and I. And I know for sure that the information that I am sharing with you has the ability to not only move you into manhood, but I'm going to say it now, to move you into godhood, to make you more like a god than a man. And I don't mean it in a proud way. I mean it in a very humble way. I don't mean a proud God walking around on earth telling other people what to do. And if that's what you think God does, you have the wrong idea of God, or you are serving the wrong God. When I say to move you more towards godhood, I mean to make you more impeccable. I mean to make you more loving. I mean to make you use wisdom with your knowledge. So that's what I need from you. I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I appreciate you. I love you. And I thank you for being. And I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to seeing the man that you are going to be. Once again, peace, love, and life. Don't forget the form. Don't forget the form. As we go through the class, I'm going to tell you what to do with it. I need you to take it to those people. Peace, love, and life. This is Mitch from Core Infusion. Have a great and wonderful day. Thank you.